Hello, my name is Slight, and welcome to a tier list of the Crown Prince's Ascensions with levels broken down. We are going to go through every single Ascension for the Crown Prince, including his three spiritual remnants that are unique to him in reincarnation. And we're going to talk about how I am choosing those things and what I think are the best and worst ones, and a little bit more on how to actually read this tier list that I have, because it's not a standard tier list. The idea here is that I'm going to keep this tier list up on screen, so if your goal here is just to pick Ascensions in the same way that I pick them, then you can pause here and use this Ascension tier list as is right now, and hopefully this will help you out in your runs. Without any further ado, let's go ahead and get right into it. We're going to start at the bottom and work our way to the top. And once I meet an Ascension, I'm going to talk about where it fits across the entire tier list, not just where it is in that specific instance. First up, we have Wildfire, level 2, which is in the Avoid Usually category. We're going to talk about Wildfire. Wildfire is a very strong Ascension that triggers after killing an enemy affected by elemental effect, except at the third level, where it triggers upon hitting an enemy with an elemental effect. The first level of this Ascension is extremely powerful, and potentially what I would consider to be the second best Ascension on the Crown Prince. It enables a lot of different stuff. It's very easy to trigger because most things will be under your corrosion effect from your grenades, but it does not scale very well. Look at the difference between level 1 and level 2. We're getting only a 10% attack speed increase, and only another 10% at third level. Granted, we do get this benefit that it triggers upon hitting enemies in an elemental effect, but I'd wager that this is not actually that useful because you're going to be killing people under elemental effects anyway. So, first pick, very, 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 very strong. Second pick, pretty worthless, but if you're forced to pick it, which would be very rare, the third pick is situationally strong if it's offered to you. Next up, we have Backpack Expansion. Backpack Expansion gives you 4, 8, and 12 smoke grenades, and it recovers. And at the last level, it recovers 1 for every 2 you throw, which is I think there's probably a little bit more interesting way to do that, but that is what it does. The first level of this is sometimes worth it. I've got it in the nothing better category. If you're playing grenade build and your goal is to just spam grenades, or you're playing in a multiplayer game and you are running out of grenades, having one level of this is very useful. Currently, there's a talent in the talent tree that automatically recharges secondary abilities the more of a certain ammo types that you shoot, and that usually does plenty for the cat because he tends to shoot plenty of bullets and regenerate his smoke grenades that way. That really indicates that level 1 is okay sometimes, rarely, and the second and third levels are some of the worst Ascensions that you could possibly get on the cat. Next up is Advanced Shield. Advanced Shield levels 1, 2, and 3 here are all particularly bad Ascensions. They sound really cool because they give you 30%, 60%, and a 90% increased shield recharge speed, but realistically, when you do the math on those very, very slightly increase your actual shield recharge speed and don't have a huge effect, especially when we consider that the cat already has this lower for faster innate talent, which increases your shield more the lower that it is. Extra shield increases get diminishing returns, and even at the third level, this is not worth it because it is basically like not choosing a Ascension by getting the first 2 levels. Electrodominance is the Ascension that increases lightning damage, and I have all 3 levels as the best of the Avoid category. One of the biggest problems with the Electrodominance is that the plus 50% lucky shot chance against enemies in the shock effect is a very weak third level, especially compared to the level 3s of Acid Dominance and Pyrodominance, which are both very, very strong at level 3. In general, if you're playing in an electric build, you're going for a miasma build, and at that point your damage is not really very important because miasma does flat percentage health damage, and that's going to do most of the damage for you. This may change if miasma gets changed, but considering miasma is incredibly powerful right now, this lightning damage talent is mostly useless. At the bottom of the nothing better category, we have the first two levels of acid dominance. These are okay because they, no matter what, will increase your smoke grenade damage. But that being said, they do not have a very large impact on your weapon usage. In general, the Crown Prince has anti-synergy with decay applying weapons because you already are getting the decay elemental effect from your smoke grenades. So if you're building weapons that are applying the decay effect, you're having a redundant way of playing the game because you're already getting the decay effect from your grenades. So while this does improve your smoke grenade damage, and it can be useful in a smoke grenade build, in general, these are usually not worth getting, even though they do have somewhat positive impact on most of your runs, even if it is marginal at best. That being said, the level 3 is situationally very strong if you are for some reason forced or decide to take the first two levels of this ascension. The third level ascension is extremely powerful. The first hit on an enemy will create a smoke grenade basically effect at their location. So that is extremely powerful. Smoke grenade damage instances can stack on each other. So if you throw 3 smoke grenades, you're doing the 3 hits. It's not like the damage gets, they can only be taking damage from 1 smoke grenade at once. So this is extremely powerful if you're ever offered it. Next up here we have Hex Smoke. The second 2 levels of Hex Smoke are in the nothing better category. But the first level of Hex Smoke is, I would consider, the very best ascension on the Crown Prince. And it is the best 1-point wonder ascension that you can get for him. If we look at the scaling on this, we go from 50, 60 to 70 damage reduction and 20 to 30 to 40 damage increase for 6, 6, and 20 seconds. Now, I'm going to make the case that a 10% damage reduction increase from here to here is very, very low value. A 10% multiplicative damage increase is also very, very low value. We are getting most of the benefits from this ascension from the very first level, and we really don't need to upgrade it very much after that. That being said, if you are going for the level 3, the level 3 is actually not as strong as it seems. It may be slightly stronger in multiplayer, but most units are dying within 6 seconds, or you're reapplying a smoke grenade within 6 seconds. And so this 20-second duration of the Hex Smoke is only marginally useful and really is overkill and doesn't have much of an impact on our actual play. Next up, at the top of the nothing better category, we have Elemental Shield. I used to rate this a little bit lower than I do now, but this is actually a pretty strong ascension when you have nothing better to pick. Survivability is exceptionally important in reincarnation, and getting an extra 30, 60, and 90 shield is quite useful. The level 3 for this is in the situationally strong if offered. If you are forced to pick levels 1 and 2 of this, then the level 3 is extremely strong because it gives you immunity to elemental effects for 6 seconds. And the effect of the max shield lasts for 20 seconds. Now, one thing to consider is that the 20-second duration is actually a bit of a downside because oftentimes you want to use up that extra shield you get, let it fall off of your max shield, and then throw your grenade again to regain that 30 shield at level 1. And this would take a little bit of experimentation with you to kind of exactly understand what I'm saying, but the fact that it stays as your max shield for 20 seconds means that you can't actually recharge that 90 shield nearly as easily as you would when the durations are lower. Another thing to keep in mind that makes Elemental Shield very good is these values are doubled when you have Paranormality, so getting plus 60 shield when you throw a grenade because of Paranormality is quite strong. We have already talked about most of the ascensions in situational if offered here, and what I'd like to say about this category is basically these ascensions are only really strong if you have been put in a situation where you've gained the prerequisites. The prerequisites are usually either situationally strong or not very strong, and so this is very rare that you should be picking these ascensions in my personal opinion. But if you are offered them, they are very strong. The top level of the situational, if offered, is Pyrodominance level 3. Pyrodominance level 3 doubles burning damage and explosion damage from the fusion effect, which basically increases it from a 200% multiplicative damage boost to a 400% multiplicative damage boost. I may not be exactly right on those numbers, but I'm pretty sure that's the way that works. In general, the 40% and 80% fire damage are useful in certain situations, and I'm going to talk about those right now. But the level 3 is extremely powerful, although it is not very often that I am in a position where I am getting to take this level 3 Ascension. Level 1 and level 2 here are split up intentionally across the grenade build and the orb build. And realistically, what I'm trying to say is that if you're going for a fire damage orb build, then it can be very, very strong to get the pyrodominance levels, because that's going to increase the damage of your fire damage orbs. And if you're going for a grenade build, it is very, very strong to be applying burning damage, applying the burning effect to enemies, because that makes them take 200% multiplicative explosion damage on each tick of your smoke grenades. So having extra fire damage while you're going for a grenade build is very, very strong, and you are highly incentivized to be applying the burning effect when you're doing a grenade build, because you can skyrocket the damage of your corrosion, you can skyrocket the damage of your smoke grenades by an enemy being under the burning effect. At the bottom of the situational orb build is Power Source level 3. Power Source level 3 gives you 5 more charges to a total 6 charges of your energy orb, which is generally overkill. It is often very difficult to utilize this unless you are specifically doing damage with your orbs. This is not a very common build, but when you are having spiritual remnants like Splinter Orb here, and you are applying elemental effects via your energy orb with energy echo here in the situational orb build, getting more orbs can be very, very strong. The two ways to play the orb build are through fire damage and through lightning damage. The lightning damage is a miasma build where basically all you're really looking for is energy echo and getting high levels of this power source ability. Splinter Orb is very, very strong, and then Blinding Sphere is exceptionally strong with this build. All right. If you're doing the fire damage, what we really want to do is increase the base damage of our energy orb, and that will allow the multiplicative damage boost from causing explosions to be extremely high. The goal when you're doing this fire damage orb build is to apply decay and then shoot a fire damage enhanced by energy echo energy orb at the enemy to get that juicy explosion damage. And the ascensions that you're seeing in this category are specifically for that. The fire damage increases that base damage that energy orb is applying when it's applying fire damage. And energy bolt here increases the base damage of energy orb, which therefore multiplicatively is going to increase that explosion damage that you're triggering. The extra explosion damages are just icing on the cake, and they do a very, very good job at doing a lot of damage. This is a rare build to go, but I will say that it is extremely fun, and building around these type of ascensions can be very, very strong. You may be surprised to see, excuse me one sec. Here we go. You may be surprised to see toxic smoke here at the bottom of the situational grenade build tier list area. The reason for that is when you do the calculations for the grenade build and you actually scale up the grenade damage, the first level of toxic smoke is extremely important because it increases the base damage of smoke grenades by 300%. But notice that we only gain 100% from level 1 to level 2 and another 100% base damage from level 2 to level 3. Now, we do gain these 100% additional base damages for each second after explosion, and that is very, very strong. But because Smoke Genius here is so much more impactful at increasing the damage of our grenade build, it is often much more important to get the levels of Smoke Genius after you've got the first level of Toxic Smoke. So, I have a video that goes through that damage calculation, and if you'd like to look at that, you can look at it in my Slights Epic Crown Prince guide, and that goes through and actually calculates all that out for you. Next up in the situational grenade build is Energy Blade. Energy Blade increases the next weapon shot / hit, it's a little bit weird how it works, by a huge portion, and then deals area damage to adjacent targets. Why would you think that this Energy Blade is going to be in the grenade build? The reason for this is that Energy Blade levels 1 is the best. It's the biggest payoff for what you get, but 2 and 3 are also very strong. But Energy Blade is a activator for Acidic Explosion. And we'll talk about Acidic Explosion here in just a sec. But the idea is that Acidic Explosion deals corrosion damage based on the total damage that a single smoke grenade will apply. So each tick gets added up, combined into one single instance of damage when they explode from Acidic Explosion. The idea is to get Acidic Explosion, increase the damage of your smoke grenades with Smoke Genius and Toxic Smoke, and then use Energy Blade and a high single target weapon to explode units and cause a chain effect through Acidic Explosion to do massive damage. These Ascensions, especially when you're using the burning elemental effect while you're doing these single hits on Energy Blade, can be very, very powerful, and you're starting to get a sense of the cohesion that is built around the smoke grenade build. We've already talked about Smoke Genius just a little bit, and one thing I'd like to note is that the first level I would consider a 1-point wonder. It increases a lot of things that you want in just about any of your runs, no matter what type of thing that you're applying. It increases the duration, it makes it tick for more instances, and it increases the damage. So the first level of Smoke Genius is considered a 1-point wonder and is good in almost every build. But the second and third levels of this are critical to significantly increasing the damage of your smoke grenades if you're going for a smoke grenade build. They also significantly increase the damage of Acidic Explosion. Speaking of Acidic Explosion, I've explained a little bit about how this works already, but this is the critical activator combined with high grenade build damage from your other Ascensions, and then triggering that Acidic Explosion with the with the Energy Blade Ascension and a single high damage hit. This is how you get a very, very effective run using a grenade build. At the bottom of the solid choice section of my tier list, we've got Elemental Rage. Elemental Rage increases damage to enemies under any elemental effect. So this is a very accessible damage boost. It's nothing incredible, but it is basically never bad and increases your total damage, not necessarily just your weapon damage, to all of the units under this, and synergizes with just about any build that you would want to go for. Just a solid, nice choice. Next up, we have levels 2 and 3 of Enhancement Lasts. And here you're going to see a little bit of deviation from the way that most people are going to suggest you play. But remember, in High Reincarnation Solo, the most important thing is that we generate some measure of safety. And the Crown Prince doesn't have high movement speed, they don't have high health, he has a little bit of shield benefits going on, but the main way that he keeps himself safe is by disabling groups of enemies, and the better that he can do that, the safer that he will be. Enhancement Lasts is one of the best ways for him to do that. I would say the third best Ascension that you can get on the Crown Prince is Enhancement Lasts level 1, which doubles the amount of time Energy Orb freezes enemies. Level 2 and 3 are just icing on the cake, and a minus 30% cooldown time is just fine. It's good, nothing amazing, but having somebody be stunned for 8 seconds is extremely, extremely useful because that gives you a lot of breathing room on the cat. Next up, we've got Blinding Sphere level 2 and level 3. Another one that's maybe a little bit unexpected from me. These increase the Energy Orb radius and at the max level, they actually add damage for each target hits, which I would say is not super useful. The main reason Blinding Sphere is so highly recommended by me is for the same reason as before. It's a defensive tool, but it combines very well with the innate talent that is Energy Charge. Recover 5% of your max shield for each hit by Energy Orb. That means that the more people we're hitting, the more shield we are recharging, and so we can take a little bit of damage and use a Blinding Sphere, especially if it's combined with something like Splinter Orb, and heal a huge chunk of our shield back while also reducing our threat. And this is a very good defensive skill for the Crown Prince. Next up, we've got Splinter Orb. Splinter Orb is a reincarnation only spiritual remnant that casts 2 additional energy orbs whenever you cast it. This is a powerful ascension that is good in almost any run. Because of some of the things that I've mentioned before, it allows you to play more defensively. Because you're shooting more energy orbs, you're getting more shield recharge from your energy charge innate talent, and that's just very strong. And even if you just get this as your first spiritual remnant, it allows you to be a little bit more defensive and have a little bit more survivability so that you can get to the build that you want to go for. In a similar zone, Smogbound Zone, or in a similar thought process, Smogbound Zone does a similar thing. While it does obviously really benefit a smoke grenade build over here, it's good almost all the time because of its huge range increase, its huge duration increase, and the fact that it gives you damage reduction, which is extremely strong in reincarnation. This is a good all-round solid choice that allows you to do everything that you already want to do and do it better. At the top of my list here, I would like to make a case for what are the best ways to pick for the Crown Prince. And I'm going to say that in general, when we look at Hex Smoke, Wildfire, Enhancement Lasts, Blinding Sphere, increased amount of orbs, and Smoke Genius, we are looking at a huge increase in each of the effectiveness of these things that we are already doing that is not represented in the second levels. And what I mean by that is Enhancement Lasts doubles the stun time. Blinding Sphere doubles the AoE. Getting an extra orb is double the amount of orbs. But if I have already 2 orbs and I go to 3 orbs, well, that's only a 33 increase in the effectiveness of that ascension. When I go from plus 4 meters to plus 6 meters, I'm only gaining a 50% increase. I may have done this, I think it's 50% here as well. That was my bad. And so you're seeing what I'm saying. Wildfire only gives us a 10% increase from level 1 to level 2. So one way to think about the Crown Prince and to be successful on him is that he has a lot of 1-point wonders, and that getting a smattering of these is going to be extremely effective for you. And that's how you're really going to take this character to its extreme highest tiers. The last thing I'd like to talk about is Elemental Maestro, which is the best spiritual remnant on the cat. You gain a buff for 4 seconds every 10 seconds. That makes you do more elemental damage, which is meh, but it guarantees the elemental effect with the buff. So what this does is basically turns you into an Elemental Maestro. It's extremely powerful, whether you're doing a miasma or an explosion build. Weapons that have a low percentage chance to apply elemental effects, if they're like slow shooting tiger cannons with an elemental effect or something, you're going to be guaranteeing those elemental effects with this buff. And there are so many builds that can be activated with the Elemental Maestro, and it just fits right into what you're already doing, even if you're not paying attention to the uptime of this ability. Extremely powerful, completely busted in a miasma build, and something that you should definitely be trying out in your reincarnation runs. Hopefully that was useful, and that gives you a sense of how I think about picking ascensions and spiritual remnants for the Crown Prince. I would say that the Crown Prince has probably the best 3 spiritual remnants of any character in the game, because all 3 of them are extremely useful. That is not the case for some of the other ones. And hopefully this will help you in your next run when you try out the Crown Prince. Best of luck in your runs, and I'll see you next time.